When our eyes close, so does our view of everyday reality, and we enter a new place, the world of the imaginal. The French philosopher Henry Corbin described the concept when writing about the Andalusian Sufi mystic Ibn Arabi. He explains, "The imaginal world is not the product of imagination as a psychological faculty, but a true world, objective and real, which exists beyond the sensible and the intelligible worlds. It is the intermediate world where the spiritual takes form and the material is spiritualized. The imaginal world is what connects the spiritual world to the world we experience in everyday life, the material world. There's you doing real world things like looking at a tree. There's an imaginal world where you dream of a tree, and there's the spiritual world in which God creates the image of the tree. The imaginal is therefore the bridge between our everyday reality and the divine. The imaginal sounds a lot like imaginary, but they are not the same thing. We experience both in our minds. But imaginary is where we take all of our memories and the knowledge that we've built up over the course of our lives and deliberately create images or ideas using them. We have agency over the images that we imagine, and we can identify ourselves as consciously having created them. So if I told you to imagine a horse wearing a hat, for example, you might see something like this. You create that image based on your knowledge of what a horse and hat look like. The imaginal also happens in the same mental place where the imaginary happens, but the things we encounter there are not consciously constructed by us. So if someone has a dream, they'll meet people, spirits, creatures, etc. that are experienced in their heads, but those beings will act independently, like they actually exist. People will say, "I saw my granddad in my dream last night," and not, "I saw a figment of my imagination that looked like my granddad while dreaming last night." It doesn't matter if the characters in your dreams exist in everyday reality or not. In the dream, you'll experience them as real, and you don't appear to have any control over them. According to Ibn Arabi, human beings with their limited faculties cannot experience the magnitude of the spiritual world within the material plane. Material reality, with its physical limits and measures, cannot ordinarily grasp a divinity that transcends its boundaries. Any experience of the divine must therefore take place in the imaginal realm, where there are fewer restraints. Ibn Arabi would say the imaginal is just as valid a reality as the one we experience while we're awake. He would further argue that since we experience the imaginal as independent of our own agency, it provides the perfect medium for angels, spirits, prophets, and the image of God himself to present themselves to a person. The key to accessing the imaginal is for us to lose conscious control of the images that appear in our mind. That happens in dreams, during meditation, and also during psychedelic experiences. So now let's tie these ideas up with the psychedelic experience. One day David takes 4 grams of magic mushrooms. After around 45 minutes, he starts feeling nauseous. His ability to make sense of things like motion, colour, sound, and so on is disrupted. He has thoughts he would not normally think, and they feel like they're coming from somewhere besides his brain. This is the classic mushroom experience so far. He has a weakened footing in the outside world. The brain's ability to act as a reliable filter and produce stable representations of material reality is disrupted. David can no longer control the images his mind creates and presents to him. So what does his mind do? It steps back from everyday reality. And where has he found himself? In Henry Corbin and Ibn Arabi's world of the imaginal. He's in what feels like a waking dream state. Characters can now manifest. They can appear as angels, aliens, mythical creatures, mythic gods, saints, and so on. In this example, David meets an angel. He's experiencing this as real in his psychedelic state. This angel may start talking to him. It helps him access parts of himself that he neglects in everyday reality. It answers questions like, why am I here? Why am I unhappy all the time? Why do things feel meaningless? If you're someone who's never experienced something like that before, it's likely going to be a very defining moment in your life. And that could be enough to completely change your ideas on religion and whether there is a world beyond this one.